Oh, fuck me. Why is it doing this?
Wings bucket. 7.
Okay, so my first and probably number one tip for fishing for big fish is patience and confidence. And you're not going to catch them if you haven't got the time of day for them. If you're too busy wanting to like reel in all the time, things like that, you've got to have a little bit of patience. You can't expect them to just do what you want them to do. They're big for a reason. They've been around the block, you know, whether it be you're targeting, you know, carp in a commercial, bream, barbel, chub on a river, you know, any bigger fish takes some catching at the end of the day. So you need to give them the time of day. So patience and confidence, which goes hand in hand with each other, is definitely a very, very important consideration. Okay, so another tip for you is bait selection. What I mean by that is putting on a bigger bait can sometimes single you out and catch you a bigger fish at a certain point in the day. You might be fishing away, catching lots of like small fish in that, but whereas if you put, say, I don't know, 2 worms on, a piece of corn, that sort of thing, even like a boilie or dumbbell or something like that, can sometimes get you that extra bite off of a big fish, where as if you just kept plodding away with like a couple of maggots on or whatever, you were never going to catch that, because a bigger fish hasn't actually got time to get and hold that and grab hold of that bait. Especially all your smaller fish, you're going to get to it before they can. You know, it's why, you know, carp anglers use big boilies, because they don't want to avoid catching bream, things like that. So it always goes hand in hand with each other. Okay, so my next top big fish tip for you is location. Now, what I mean by that is whereabouts in your swim you're actually targeting the fish, not necessarily like where you sit, although when we're pleasure fishing, that can be quite important. You wouldn't want to sit on a rubbish peg, but in matches we don't get to decide that either. So I think like whereabouts you're actually targeting in the river will go hand in hand with what you're going to catch. So like, for example, today I'm targeting bigger fish like bream. I'm not going to go chucking right to the side or chucking it down here to catch those fish, although it will work on certain occasions. Most of the time, them fish are just going to be sat in the deepest water, probably up off the bottom, and then like go down to feed when they're ready, type of thing. So by targeting the right area, you're going to give yourself the best chance of getting a bite off one. The next thing I feel that is like really important when you're fishing and targeting your big fish on a river, and it goes again hand in hand a little bit with the last thing I've just covered in like location, is that I feel that like quite a lot of the time the fish will be sat up in the water, and you've got to try and like get something that's going to draw them down and onto your bait, so to speak, for want of a better word. So I feel like a fish meal based ground bait is definitely these days the way to go when you're targeting bigger fish on a river. It is in a lot of places, to be honest, because the fish are seeing more and more of it these days. You get a lot of barbel anglers on the Trent putting lots of pellets in, boilies, you know, that sort of thing. So you've really got to like give yourself the best chance of catching a bigger fish, like whether it be bream or barbel, you know, chub. You want something nice and powerful and strong that is going to attract them and hold them in your peg. Whereas, like, you know, a sort of more traditional ground bait, it's not as suited. You will catch fish on it. You'll catch smaller fish on it, and maybe if you have an incredible day, you might get a load of big fish there as well. But definitely, fish meal is the way to go when you're targeting big fish on a river. 100%. Last tip I'm going to give you is time of day. You know, light levels and stuff, extremely important with where big fish are concerned. Now, that can either be in a match scenario, you're pleasure fishing, it doesn't matter. Time of day is so important when it comes to catching big fish. Like, if I was here in a match today, I'd be thinking my best times of catching would be first thing, like first couple of chucks, or very last thing in the match. You know, we all have those days where it's golden and you can go and you can just keep catching all day. They're great, but more often than not, they're not. And, you know, the same sort of scenario when you're pleasure fishing, if you want to come and catch some big fish, you will come at the right time of day. You want to come like first thing in the morning or like later at night in the evening in long, you know, especially in summer, because it's just everything's gone quiet. It's, you know, it's the time of day where they're gonna have a feed. So optimizing the right time of day is absolutely crucial to catching the big fish.
Oh, fuck.
Right, so just to give you a little bit of an update, going through a bit of a spell now, and like you do get this, to be honest, with fishing the way that we are. Obviously, we're using like natural baits, and you're going to get times where roach and perch and other species come into your peg. Roach are a very aggressive fish. I find, and at the minute there seems to be quite a few in the peg that are having the feeder as it goes down. But as well, the good thing is, I believe, is what they do is they'll bring other fish in. They've just put a loads heavier feeder on because obviously the flow's increased again. Like 75 gram on there, whereas at the start we was fishing with 40. There's a little drop back then. But yeah, it's I suppose so. It's just a way of like working your way through these fish. Get my bait off, mugged me off that time. Gonna put a single maggot on now. This could be really good for. Right, it's just a single maggot on a big hook, or
I don't know why I bought
like a head of a worm is
stressing me out, mate,
as well.
to the point where you're just pissing me off.
But yeah, just working your way through
5 minutes.